Hi everyone, this is Adam Cohen. I am your host. I am the CEO of Adam Cohen today, and you guys are watching another edition of Business Brainstorm. Joining me today, I have Will Hanley, Judge Lewis Knock, Bo Yi, and Chris Stanley. And I believe we have Malcolm watching in the background there. All right, we are live, we are recording, and what I would like to do, as I do every week, is I go around the room and I introduce everyone, and I will go first. So my name is Adam Cohen. I am the owner of Adam Cohen today, and also of Saks and Spencer Capital, also of Saks Cap, Smash Mortgage, which you guys are about to see the brand new release of, and a few other companies. Most people know me in the private lending real estate space, which I've been doing for about 25 to 30 years. I would say about 30 years. Now I'm getting older than I'd like to admit. Older than I look. And today I am joined by some great people, almost all of whom have been with us before, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourselves, starting with Will Hanley. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Will Hanley, founder of Our Becoming. My background is in neurolinguistic programming, of which I've been involved with since its inception in 1978 in Santa Cruz, California. Our Becoming is an international business coaching entity utilizing NLP and business power tools, enabling us to coach every aspect of business from startup to final sale. Over 25 years, we did research of people that were successful in business, like Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and a dozen others, to find out what were the most important questions in developing a successful business they thought were. And from what we learned, we created a circle of success, which any business can use. And along with those skills, we also coach every aspect of business, from writing a business plan, obtaining investors, creating financial roadmaps to the business to final sale. Yes,
All right,
Are
thank you.
Becoming international business coaching.
Thank you, Will. And Judge Lewis, your opportunity to do a quick intro.
Thank you, Adam, and it's great to be with Will Boyi and everyone else, Chris. Um, my name is Louis Knock. I'm a former New York State Supreme Court Justice and mainly presiding over commercial and corporate law matters. I also sat in criminal court in Manhattan for several years. I am currently a shareholder in the national law firm of Anderson Kill, a resident in its Times Square office. Business is what we do at Anderson Kill, and it's what I did as a judge. And what better forum to be at than Adam Cohen today with fellow entrepreneurs and fellow people who can share experiences in business. I always learn from my friends, from my clients. So it's a great pleasure to be with all of you today.
All right, well, thank you for joining us again, Judge Lewis. And Bo Yi, and we see you're in your office today, Bo Yi.
Yeah, I'm in my office today. Hi, everybody. I haven't joined you guys for at least 3 weeks.
Yeah, we
I
missed
believe it's
you.
about 3 weeks. Thank you, thank you. So, I'm happy to meet everybody again. And actually, let me introduce myself. I'm Bo Ying. I'm working for Pansy Bank. I'm the commercial lending officer. So, what I do is I have 25 years mortgage experience from residential. So recent 15 years, most of my transactions are involved commercial. Then this is how I met Adam a few years ago. Right now I'm more focused on the commercial construction lending. So, and I would love to listen to learn from other professional too, because I still have a lot of things I might don't know and I would like to learn.
All right. Well, this is a family and a community that we're growing here, and it's nice that we're getting some repeat people coming back. That means you're enjoying the conversation, and the goal here is for us all to learn and grow and to build the community. This is our community. So, and Chris Stanley, and thank you for joining us. You're on mute, just so you know. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Chris Stanley. I am the Vice President of Business Development with a company called Tech Leaders. And we are in the business of data and business analytics And we are currently, we've been going through a lot of transition with our company since all this AI stuff has come out over the last few years and become very popular. So we are definitely making that move to further our footprint in the technology industry. But we do a lot of IT consulting, a lot of high-end IT recruiting as well. I've been in the business for 27 years. And when you kind of go through a rebranding of your business and kind of that next phase and the next steps, and trying to stay on top of things, maybe getting different perspectives on how other people are doing things. That's why I decided to join you guys today.
Well, thank you for joining us. And you're not the Chris that I was referring to from New York, and I really hope you will join us one of these days. That would be an honor.
Sorry to disappoint, but I swear I'm
It's
as nice
okay.
a guy as he seems to be.
I have to tell you that the other Chris that I referred to was someone who taught me so much about New York that and we lost touch, and I don't know what happened to him. He disappeared off the face of the earth. So I hope he's well. But welcome and thank you for joining us today. And we just had Kevin Ewing join us. Kevin, would you like the opportunity to introduce yourself to the group? It's optional. Okay, well, moving on. So, we're going to be talking a little bit about branding today, but before we get into it, I don't know if anybody noticed, someone may have heard a rumor, but those giant yellow bananas that have been flying around the sky out of LaGuardia Airport and out of Fort Lauderdale, they went out of business this weekend. Did anybody see it?
That's correct.
Did anyone see Spirit Airways finally shut down? And although I'm going to tell you, I don't like Spirit Airways, they're probably one of the worst customer service airlines, but they've also had one of the highest efficiency, which is kind of interesting. So, how does a company that charges you for water, charges you for basically everything, that is a pretty efficient business model that were very smart in upcharging just about everything? How do you think a company that is that efficient and that savvy about charging for just about everything to stay so that you book something that's cheaper than all their competitors, but by the time you're said and done, it's more expensive? How does an airline like that suddenly just go out of business? Like, was anyone surprised that that happened, or did you guys expect it?
I personally expected it. It didn't shock me in the least. I'm surprised they lasted as long as they did. I flew on their airline once, maybe twice, and yeah, I do it again. It was nice.
Yeah, I for one was actually surprised because you read about airlines going out of business all the time, but they're always bought out by someone or they get an emergency deal at the last minute. So I was very surprised that the Trump administration didn't bail it out at the last minute because that's generally what happens even under red government, blue government, big corporations for preservation of jobs and for the economy. They usually get bailed out. Why do you think Spirit kind of missed the opportunity? I mean, people are blaming Elizabeth Warren, but one person doesn't have that much power. Why do you think that as a country and as a as a business-friendly government that we presently have, why do we does anyone have any kind of insight as to why suddenly such a big airline would just go bust? Because it paves the way for future airlines to go bust now. JetBlue are already talking about filing bankruptcy, and Delta are canceling flights today. And this affects all of us because we may have noticed a little bit. And I was talking to my cousin about this over the weekend, and I'm sorry if I sound a little congested. I caught a bit of a cold. Um, there's been a rise in the cost of living over the last few years. Did anybody feel that? Did anyone feel that their dollar doesn't stretch as far as it used to? And when you think about that, not only does the dollar not stretch as far as it used to, the fuel costs going up worldwide based on wars, based on everything that's going on, based on consumer spending, based on the way the economy is going. This affects us as a business owner because, like, from the big corporations down to the small individuals, everyone has less money to spend. And that's going to have some kind of an impact on business. I know that I've seen our business slow down over the last couple of years. I've actually enjoyed the break, if you want to know the truth. Gave me the opportunity to come up with some fresh ideas instead of getting stuck in that same circle for a while. But are you guys feeling that any impact in your business, and how do you think the fallout from Spirit is going to affect your travel plans or business travel plans? Do you think this is, or the cost of traveling in general, and how does that affect your ability to function your business and to do things the way you want to do? Like, what impact are you seeing that may have an effect on you guys?
Adam, if I
Well,
may,
Go ahead.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
But
I'm
Joe
sorry.
first, Will second. There we go.
Thank you. Before I get to that question, I can tell you this, just to help the conversation. I followed the bankruptcy court filings in the Spirit matter, not just because, I like to read legal things, which I do, but because I have a client who is in the aircraft industry, who continued to be very interested in purchasing aircraft, purchasing, reselling to other airlines. And so when he contacted me about the possibility of purchasing, what happened with the Spirit airline bankruptcy is they put it up for bid, 20 aircraft up for bid, Airbuses. And what the bankruptcy court does is it says we're going to the bankruptcy court will issue an order and say we have a stalking horse bidder who has already made a tentative deal with the trustee to purchase aircraft. But what we're going to do is that's going to be the lowest bid, and we're going to set it down for an auction date and see if there are any higher bidders. Well, as it turned out, so my client was interested in getting in that game, but as it turned out, the auction date came and went, and there were no bidders that exceeded the price that that's what they call them, the stalking horse bidder. Ironically, when it came time for the stalking horse bidder to actually pay on its contract, it didn't have the cash. So now everything is back up for grabs. The little I could discern from my investigation, and I contacted counsel for the debtor, is they ran out of cash. It doesn't really answer the question, how did they run out of cash? But they simply ran out of working capital, and which is a scary thing. Chris mentioned something that relates directly to customer service. That may have a very strong impact on gaining customers, retaining customers, broadening the customer base. Most people I talk to have the same impression that they just didn't want to book with Spirit. But what I could ascertain was they just ran out of liquid cash. They had a lot of creditors. I think JetBlue and Frontier were trying to negotiate a deal with Spirit. It simply fell through because they were just over leveraged, not enough cash. Why? We could all speculate about that. So that's my little vignette about my interaction looking at the bankruptcy files and talking to counsel about that. How will it affect my family's personal travel plans? Sort of like Chris said, we never planned on flying Spirit anyway. So we'll see what happens. I mean, look, these airplanes are ultimately going to be picked up by folks like my client who want to buy them, resell them to other airlines. He actually had a couple of airlines lined up, and then the stalking horse auction deadline came. Now that it went, it's up for grabs again.
Well, maybe we'll just try to put Adam Cohen Today consortium together to try and buy the airline, because a few people are doing this. I've read from OnlyFans models to some crazy guy on Instagram to a bunch of crazy people. They all want to try and raise $800 million to buy the airline.
Yeah, but the problem is that the bankruptcy court is not allowing piecemeal purchases
Yeah,
of aircraft. They're
yeah,
requiring a block purchase of everything,
yeah.
which
It's
makes it
not,
tough.
you can't buy one plane at a time. You've got to buy all of them.
No,
All right. And
right.
I actually think it should be a requirement when you get to a certain level that if you want to buy an airline or a car manufacturing company or something, that there should be a level of experience that comes with running those enterprises. I don't think it should be someone that a random person should do. And I know Richard Branson did it, and I have a good friend of mine that's becoming the CEO of TAP Airways in Portugal, which is the national airline in Portugal. So I know that there are some pop-up situations, but when you're talking about employing hundreds of thousands of people, I think there needs to be a level of experienced management team to do that, not just that route planning, safety, and all of that fun stuff. Running an airline is not something for the inexperienced, in my opinion. Will, you had something you wanted to chime in about. And Jeff, thank you for joining us today. Good to see you again.
No, I'm fine. I just wanted to say my business is all Zoom, so I don't have to fly. So I'm not concerned.
Oh, I personally love to fly, not Spirit, but they do have, if you're going to book something short notice, they were always the best option. If you've got to book this morning and go tonight kind of situation, they did have it fair pricing for like a drop of the hat. And Jeff, we're talking about the recent collapse of Spirit Airways, by the way. So. For me, I was very surprised. And one thing I read today, which I thought was interesting, how Spirit, although we all agree their service was terrible, and this is interesting because it affects all of us, is based on competitions, as we all have competitors. Um, what Spirit did do is it drove the other airlines to remain somewhat competitive because otherwise they wouldn't be selling their seats. So if, for example, there's an airline that's selling their seats for $120 or $200, you can't justify selling it for $800 to American or Delta. Now that Spirit is out of the way, the one or two airlines, I think Frontier is left, and they're also in trouble. And they're talking about going seatless, actually having all standing room, I think I read. Um, you eliminate the drive for other airlines to maintain lower costs to make it more affordable for the common man to travel. Now, we've spoken about this before and about the World Economic Forum and about how we'll own nothing and be happy, and we're all going to wear these AI sunglasses to travel on and what have you. Do you think, because every business is fueled by some level of consumerism, that we are losing more of our freedoms and our privileges and our rights as individuals, and that this is part of a bigger plan? Or do you think I'm being a little bit of a conspiracy theorist?
Well, if I can jump in real quick, one of the reasons that we actually quit flying. It's me and my wife, and we've got two small kids. And when COVID came around, and the airlines did all the lockdown stuff and the masks and all the 6 feet apart and all that stuff, we quit flying. We quit altogether because my wife wasn't having any of that. I was afraid to take her to an airport because she'd get her. I was like, she just might not make it home. So we bought an RV, and we have traveled all over the country. Whenever we have to go visit family and stuff like that, we take the RV. And I'll speak for us and say that it's been a great blessing for us to be able to do that because it's given us quality time with our kids. Now, neither my wife still flies once in a while because she's got quick business. I don't have to fly very often with my job, but when we do travel now, we didn't give up on the airlines. We just decided that we weren't going to participate in that game anymore, and the tickets became very, very expensive, kind of across the board, and we leveraged points that we had with American Airlines. So it was rare that we really, when we did buy a ticket, that we had to pay for it. But we're more of the exception than the rule, where we just said we're not going to participate in the airline game anymore. And funny enough, the RV industry has been booming since COVID. We were not the only ones that came up with that idea. And so along our routes, we've met a lot of younger families that are doing the same thing, where they just said, we're not going. So it's changed the dynamic of travel, essentially.
All right. Now, the interesting thing about you talk about RV, I actually have some clients, and if you ever met them, some of these clients are multi-millionaires, right? And talking about RV, I have these multi-millionaire clients that own multiple luxury homes, they own expensive cars, they live in penthouse condos, and they travel in their RV. Now, for me, I have this thing about speed, right? So for me, driving an RV would be difficult because I have what's called a heavy foot. I don't understand what speed limits mean, and if I was to drive an RV, you'd probably see me on the side of the road with the thing turned over. And where's a Ricky Bobby? I like to go fast. I want to go fast. I want to go fast. But the interesting thing about RV, and let's talking about fuel prices, is I think the cost at the pump has gone up a little bit. I think we can all agree with that, right? I drive a very fuel efficient Range Rover, maybe not so fuel efficient, but anyway, I drive a Range Rover, and I filled up. I put gas in it yesterday, and I think I paid like $5.50 or something a gallon. California, I think now is at $8 a gallon in different parts, maybe not all over the state, but in Beverly Hills probably, and that rising fuel cost is driving up the cost of everything from family vacation to the cost of goods to the cost of services to the cost of absolutely everything. Now, I know that in my industry, that doesn't affect me so much. It's like my clients aren't so concerned about the cost of fuel. I'm guessing, Jeff, we've seen multiple times on the show here that your clients are not so concerned about fuel costs. But we all travel for business and personally. And do you feel in any way that the cost of that travel, then be it by RV, by plane, do you think that's having a detrimental impact on the economy, which, if anything, trickles down to our businesses as well? Do you feel that there's any kind of impact or not yet?
I mean, of course, there's an impact. I mean, I travel for work a lot. I'm on a plane at least once every 2 weeks at this point. I never fly in Spirit because every time I fly Spirit, my back would hurt me afterwards because the seats were the most uncomfortable seats in any airline. So Spirit was my no-go. Tried it twice and that was it. But from perspective of cost of product, there's no question it's affecting it drastically, the cost of fuel. Just anything's costing fuel. I mean, we do a lot of construction products have gone up in price, and not so much because the actual product is up in price. The shipping costs of those products have gone up heavily, and therefore they're affecting overall cost within the construction industry. So we do see a lot of price increases due to the cost of fuel.
Yeah. So I think rising fuel costs is negatively affecting everyone. And I think I've had this conversation before. I'm not going to say it again anyway. Like, my family are in England, and not too long ago, my mother asked me, she says, how is Trump doing for the economy? And I feel this is a fair statement. I think for the US economy, I think he's doing great. Business is good, and some of the plans that he had will definitely help the country. It's just not helping the people who live in the country. I don't think the people that live in the US are any financially better off, regardless if it was Biden, Trump, or anyone else in the office. People are hurting at the petrol pumps. They're hurting on travel costs. Businesses are hurting on fuel costs. I have a very good friend of mine that owns a trucking company, and he literally said to me, between the rising cost of fuel and the rising cost of insurance, he's shutting down his business. He cannot afford to sustain because his clients don't want to pay his new costs in order for him to make a profit. So we're seeing trucking companies going out of business because they can't afford to operate at the price point that the manufacturers and the big industry wants them to operate. So this is starting to affect all of us. And I think even when we go into the supermarket, and I live in Miami, I have seen where they have had empty shelves, no water, waiting times, because they're waiting to put more stuff on one vehicle and bring it in for cheaper than have 4 or 5 trucks coming in a day the way they used to. I do think it's affecting all businesses, and I think it's affecting our business. Now, for an opinion, do we think that these rising prices are going to continue, or do you guys think at some point it's going to level off or come back down again? Is this a short-term problem or part of a bigger problem that's going to happen over time? Oh, yeah,
I mean, there's oh,
you want to chime in on that?
I think it will continue to rise, but like any other time when we've seen this, there will be a bubble and it's going to come down. You got to factor in. I mean, fuel prices were on the rise anyway, but now that we've got the action involving Iran, it's still going to get tight for a while.
So, how do you think if the market for the cost of fuel is going to continue to rise, how do you think that's going to affect in the short or in the long term all of our businesses? Do you feel that that has an effect on us, or do you think that we are yet to see the effect, or do you feel that we will be based on our industries, and I think we're all in, we all deal with, I guess, more high net worth clients. Do you feel that that's going to cause a loss of revenue or opportunity, or do you think it's going to create a loss of revenue and new opportunity? How do you guys feel about where the tipping point is?
So if I can jump in, it's interesting. I think that the last couple years we have definitely seen our business change, and being in the technology industry, there were two things that were potentially changing our business. One was it was an election year, and anytime that there's an election year, everybody kind of holds on to their dollars because they don't know what direction this is going to go, right? The other one was as soon as Trump was elected, there was the tariffs, and I was kind of like, I don't think those are going to be that bad. They seem to be they seem to, as I understood my clients' businesses a little bit better, there were definitely ways that those tariffs affected their businesses and how they would make decisions. And nobody wanted to be the guy that made a decision that got the company in trouble because they weren't sure. And one of my friends who's in the heavy machinery business, they buy engines from Volvo. They come over, they have to pay a tariff for the engines coming over. It's got to be in different categories and so forth, and they never know which one it's going to be. So they don't really know the actual cost of the engine coming over. And so when he explained it to me, I was kind of like, wow, that, now I kind of get a little bit more. It doesn't necessarily affect me the same way, but either way, companies are having a harder time making decisions because they're not sure of what the cost is going to be. The other thing that happened in our industry specifically is with, AI has actually been around for a long time, but AI, it seemed like within the last 2 years, all of a sudden everybody felt like we have to do something with AI, and nobody knew what to do. And the good thing about us is that we were in the data business. Okay. If you don't have good data, you don't have good AI. They are one and the same in those terms. If you don't have good governance around it, you can have all the AI things that you want, but they're not going to be as effective as you would like them to be. They're not going to be accurate. I think we've probably all used ChatGPT, and at some point you ask ChatGPT a question that you actually know the answer to, and it gets it wrong, and it's because of the data that it's pulling from being incorrect. And so between Trump and AI, it affected the technology business considerably. Now, I don't know if the economy is great in the U.S. The stock market, I follow that religiously. That seems to be doing just fine. It's up and down and up and down, but we just hit a record high last week, and so it's like, all right, maybe somebody's doing business. I don't know who it is, but somebody's got confidence in it. But we seem to be kind of it seems to be that the decision makers in a lot of the companies are having a hard time, especially in the technology sector. I would say that. And AI is the reason, and cybersecurity around AI is a big reason. So,
All right, Jeff, I have a question for you. You're an architect, correct me if I'm wrong. and you work with a lot of developers. How are you seeing that rising fuel costs are affecting your construction numbers, future development costs, future resale costs, and the ability of being able to sell the units that you guys are building and being able to factor in budget costs? Because if we, for example, we do a lot of construction lending, but he does construction lending. If there's going to be an escalation in fuel costs, which will lead to an escalation in material costs, how do you budget for a new development project when the cost that you're factoring in today may not be relevant a year from now when the project might be built?
So you obviously leave in we always put in a percentage of fluctuation to protect against it. So we can assume a fluctuation as a possibility to come into play. I will say the fuel cost has not risen high enough to really make that big of an effect yet. Obviously, it is higher, but it's not that much higher. During the times during COVID where the prices went crazy, at that point that was a major difference because the containers from overseas skyrocketed in cost. The containers have come back drastically down in prices. They're really close to the way they were almost pre-COVID, maybe a couple of $1,000s more a container. And that distributed over a container cost of overall product is not that big of a difference in the overall cost of tile. You can still get tile today for under $1 a foot for subway tile from overseas. You can easily get kitchens, full-fledged kitchens for under 10 grand still from overseas, from when we talk about massive construction projects. So the cost still hasn't really made a major difference in the overall cost. And even when fuel does go up incrementally, again, it's fluctuated over a massive amount of product because we look at a container size and we evaluate the entire container against that fuel cost increase. So it does percentage-wise make a difference. If it gets too high, it becomes a problem. But at this moment, we don't see that much we see a small fluctuation, but not a massive fluctuation in the pricing.
And on the other side of that coin, if you're building new housing, obviously the intended purpose for that new housing is for a retail buyer. How do you think it will affect the ability of retail buyers to purchase condos or houses if the cost of fuel and retrospectively the cost of everything else continues to increase, and at the same time AI replacing jobs, which is creating less employed people and 200,000 a year salary today does not cover a fraction of what a 200,000 a year salary covered 10 years ago.
Right. So I'm not a big believer in doomsday predictions. If we are so busy in doomsday predictions, I might as well shut my business today and call it a day. We can't really operate on such a circumstance.
Yeah.
You want to tell me that, yeah, unless I will go to Elon Musk's version of it, then no one will have to work and they will have free food and free housing. So you can either look at it from one way or another. If we're going to sit there and try to figure out what's going to happen in the future because AI is going to make everybody lose their jobs, that's not something I can really try to even remotely value into a conversation, and nor do I intend to. Does it? I believe that AI is just going to make people's jobs easier. I don't think it's going to replace it. It will replace certain sectors. For instance, coding. I already know the coding industry is having a very, very hard time with the AI aspects of it, especially with the new AIs out there that are built on coding, which is going to make a big difference in the coding industry. I do see AI affecting our industry a little bit, not that much, but a little bit. I have a client of mine just fired 30% of his staff due to AI implementation in his office. There is going to be a major thing, but AI is going to really, I would say, kind of create a more serious aspect to the lower aspect of the employment industry than the higher end aspect of the employment industry, because it does very, very good at data moving, which basically, if I want to take data from a spreadsheet and put it into a program, or I want to do those components and stuff, which is a very much data entry based product, AI does that very, very well. AI does not do well when it comes to thinking, even though people think that it does. As you can see, if you enter anything that requires thinking, 90% of the time I've seen it gets something or else wrong with it. Even you do legal sheets. If you read a legal document that AI created and you use it for legal, you guaranteed someone's going to do a lawsuit and will win, because the wording makes such a difference. They use in a legal document. One word can mean winning a lawsuit, losing a lawsuit, as I'm sure Justice Lewis could shake his head there and sees that. So
or even the way the word is written in the sentence. Phrasing can be very highly impacted. But my question is,
I don't think the doomsday take on it is very, very not something I would take into account. However, there is going to be a component. There's always fluctuations in the market, and you have to assume for fluctuations in the market. You do what you can, and you do your best.
I always find that you've got to take two options into consideration when you're doing anything in business. The extreme best case scenario, the extreme worst case scenario, and everything in between, right? So I think you do have to kind of pay attention to what's going on in the world. There's many wars being fought, oil crises, Bill Gates talking about future pandemics. If he's talking about it, we know they're coming because we know that he's invested in it. At least that's my personal belief. That you can agree or disagree with me on that. That's fine. But I feel that the world has gotten more expensive, and I think that we cannot ignore that. That the world getting more expensive is going to create less money for the consumers to spend, which indirectly affects all of us. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how wealthy our clients are, they rely on consumerism. If consumerism slows down, all right, then that will inadvertently affect us. But
Can I say something to that?
go ahead.
I think that the mentality of that is I'll tell you two things. One thing, I'll tell you something. I had a conversation with someone during COVID, and he was building a very large project that needed COVID, that during COVID obviously was not going to be used. And I was asking him a question. I said, what's your situation? COVID is a disaster. No one's going to occupy this building. You're not going to use it. And his response to me was, that's very nice. Either COVID's going to go away and we're going to be able to occupy the building, or it's not going to go away, and then the whole world's a disaster anyway. It's irrelevant. Money's going to be disaster regardless. So you can't look at a situation and say, oh wow, the whole world's coming to an end, and therefore I can't do anything, because there's always a give or take. It always goes up. There's a cycle. It goes around and around and around. You can look at this throughout the entire. So you look at Florida. You used to live in Florida. The cycle, the real estate market has gone up and down on multiple occasions. Today it happens to be up, right? But you can look at tomorrow, it might go down. Maybe I shouldn't buy a house there because it's going to go down, and therefore I have to look at. We can't always keep that mentality. But the main point I wanted to make to you was, if you look at pricing, yes, you're right. Right now it's expensive. Everything ultimately catches up at some point. For instance, $1 today is not what it used to be worth as $1 before, because the inflationary aspect of it will reach. For instance, they say $15 minimum wage. It's a cute play. There will be a point where $15 will be minimum wage regardless, because money will be worth less. There's always this dynamic as it goes up and changes, that you're going to fluctuate, and the things behind it will catch up. So the lower worker will have a new minimum wage, and then the wealthy will change. That dynamic will always be back and forth at all times. So you can try to predict it as much as you can. You try to do your best to hedge it. But at the end of the day, it just moves. It's a wheel. And you got to just be on the right side of the wheel at the right time. That's it.
All right. Well, I agree with you, Jeff. I 100% agree. And Jeff's been with us a few times, and he and I have agreed and disagreed on different subjects. And I always enjoy it when he joins us, because I don't want to have people here to agree with me. I actually like it better when you don't, because it makes for a more interesting and debating, heated conversation, and I enjoy that because it's the Englishman in me, right? So
I would actually like to give a plug to one of Jeff's points. He invoked my name during his remarks, and I would like to agree with him on this following point. You know, AI and the concept of that, wreaking havoc with the labor market. It's really industry dependent. For example, in my industry, the law industry, when AI was first started to become popular, I can tell you that in my industry, the Office of Court Administration was terrified by it, and I'll tell you why. There were horror stories. About attorneys who were relying not on conventional legal research that you have to pay for, such as Westlaw, Lexis, those types of research vehicles that actually require interactive thought and interactive, human input. Lawyers were experimenting, not everybody, but there were enough lawyers experimenting with AI who got careless, relied too much on it, thought they were using a medium that was equivalent in quality to a Lexis or to a Westlaw, creating what looked like great documents, contracts, legal briefs, and guess what? It was wrong. And there were horror stories about attorneys who jumped the gun, filed briefs that looked really, really great. And guess what? A lot of the cases that AI quoted didn't exist. And then to make matters worse, there were judges who, again, something they shouldn't have done. There were judges who sometimes would actually say, hey, that's a great legal argument. I'm going to ask my law clerk to lift that portion of that attorney's brief and put it into my legal opinion. The cases didn't exist. And so in judicial conferences that I was invited to and that I attended, this was a big, big topic. And the message from court administrators and panels was, we're not telling you not to take a peek at AI, but what we are telling you is be extremely cautious. You need that lawyerly expertise, that education that you paid so much for, or that your parents paid so much for. Use it. Don't just, for law, for legal analysis, for legal precedent, do not rely exclusively or even close to exclusively on AI. So, Jeff, at least in my industry, there's no way that I can predict that AI would make a huge dent in the personnel aspect or labor aspect of the legal profession. It's impossible. AI just simply cannot or has not up until now advanced to a stage where it can do the kind of job that traditional legal research with a human, educated, licensed attorney can do. It's impossible.
All right, I have some thoughts I'd like to share. All right, so I know most of your industries pretty well. All right, I've been in business for 35 years, so I understand. I work in real estate finance, I finance construction, so I'm going to understand Jeff's position on this. I understand Judge Lewis's position, Bo Yee's, and Will, and I think this is applied to you as well. Justin, thank you for joining us, by the way. So the thing is with AI versus the human component is when I work on a transaction with a client, I'm going to presume this applies to everyone. Understanding the client, their personality, their needs, the many moving parts of a transaction from a personal level empowers us to do our job better. When you rely solely on data and you take away that personality and you take away those other mitigating factors from the many, 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 many things that go into a relationship business, you then just get data which doesn't necessarily apply in the real world. It's useful, but it's missing that human component. So I think that we can all agree here that AI is amazing for doing the hard work and heavy lifting, but then you need a person to go in and understand the relationship between the parties. I have many architect friends, Jeff, so I believe this applies to you. It's the understanding of the relationship between the parties, their needs, their wants, their limitations, their expectations. And when you understand that on a personal level, you come up with something that isn't just based on data. It's based on the data, but it's also based on that relationship and understanding that pushing the envelope that and I've worked in many scenarios where the data said what I want to do cannot be accomplished. There are limits and you cannot exceed them, right? But with the human component, you can push those boundaries to accomplish far better results, which AI wouldn't understand because, as you said, it's not thinking. It's taking the data and programming an answer, but with the human mind and the human thought, we can push those boundaries to do even greater successful projects based on whatever we're trying to accomplish in that way. So the AI, though, it is evolving, and the AI that we all are using is basic compared to the future AI that's already in development. And that's where the world is going to change, when that future AI that's in development now, that's not available to any of us. That's where we have to worry, because that future AI is what will make or break us down the road. It will either be a great asset to us and help us accomplish all of our goals and build our businesses, or on the other hand, it could prevent us from doing that. Is it the Terminator, Skynet scenario, the worst case, or is it going to be the best tool that helps us all become successful millionaires and billionaires? And people are already using AI for trading and algorithms. And I was doing a Zoom call recently with a gentleman that developed a trading algorithm using AI that is successful 65-70% of the time. So it's either going to create a lot of millionaires or it's going to create a lot of unemployed people. To be honest, and I think I can't remember who said this on the call today, or on the Zoom today. Our clientele, our group, is probably going to be able to use AI to our benefit and to help us grow our businesses. For the low-skilled, minimum wage employees, it's going to put them out of business. Hence, they're talking about universal basic income. How that will benefit us or hurt us down the road, I don't know. I'm not an expert in that field. But it's definitely something we should be thinking about and talking about because it will ultimately affect all of us. Now, moving on to that one point, I want to talk about one last thing. We're running up on our hour right now. Mahedi, who organizes these events for me, wanted me to talk about a little bit about personal branding matters, business development, and how LinkedIn helps us grow our businesses and the importance of personal branding. So my question to all of you is, how do you feel that personal branding would help you grow your business? Or do you think being anonymous or blending in, what do you think is better? Do you think having a strong personal brand where people know you, identify you, and see you as an industry leader helps you grow? Or do you think being innocuous is your preference? How do you guys perceive that in the current world that we live in today? Well,
Well, let me
how about
start
you? Sorry,
first.
you can try.
Okay, let me start first.
Yeah.
So this past 2 weeks, Mahidi keep me very busy.
Good. I'm glad to
So
hear
yeah,
that.
I never know LinkedIn is that powerful. So I never really reach out to a lot of people. So he go through my connection. Like he's sending out the invite, like reaching out to people. So I have 30 inquiry to my
Oh, it's amazing.
inbox right now. So I have to respond.
So
So
what
it
you
is powerful.
so what you're saying is that we helped you. That's fantastic. Bo Yi
It's
recently
only
signed up to our business
1 week.
concierge
Yes.
program. All right. And
Yes,
she
only 1 week.
procrastinated on getting us data. And now that she got us what we
Yeah.
needed, she's getting results. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for sharing that because my goal is to help you succeed. And if I'm doing that, then I'm very satisfied. Jeff, we need to get you as a client. Um, let us grow your business.
We'll talk about that. Personal brand is a necessity in today's market. There's no question about it. We push our personal brand heavily. We have two people in-house that do PR for us 24/7. Basically, we just actually launched a new website for the first time in almost 6 years. But besides the website specifically, we started doing shorts, reels on YouTube and other things of that sort just to get a personal brand aspect of it. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, today's market is very, very short spanned, quick mentality, and they latch onto a personality, not just a company. So if you don't have a personal brand today, it's very, very difficult to grow.
Jeff, would you like to be featured on our podcast, by the way?
I'm always excited to be featured. Always will.
I'm gonna reach out to you directly regarding that. Judge Lewis has been on. We just launched. Funny enough, Frank Torchia of Torch Entertainment we just did it this weekend. I think we filmed on. I think we filmed on Friday. I don't remember what day we filmed. To tell you the truth, but we chatted for almost 2 hours, and the final cut was an hour and 35 minutes long. I said to him this morning, I said I think it's more of a feature film than it is a podcast, but it was a great. But
Jeff, Jeff,
you and I definitely. What's that?
I highly recommend it, Jeff. Being in the hot seat with Adam, interrogating is a fun experience and a very worthwhile experience. And he's a gentleman, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
I don't mind the hot seat, just not too hot because I do get sweaty sometimes. That's all.
We keep it very light. We don't put you in
It's
like an
fun.
awkward spot. We're not going to pick your political views or anything like that. We talk about your business, your journey, and things about you. And what we started doing is I'm actually letting my guests throw one question at me. Now, the difference is that we give you the opportunity to read the questions up front. You get to surprise me with a question at the end. So, and I've had some great questions actually. And if you watch the channel, you have to wait to the end of the video in order to see it. But the questions have been, some of them have been a little funny. So, and I don't
A lot
mind
of
a
fun.
random question. So establishing here, personal branding is a very important thing. It's like in today's industry, it's so important to stand out. And the thing is that AI, as we were talking about, does help people stand out. But what we see is a million people using the same picture with a different face. So you're basically following the crowd, which I call sheepism, right? So branding needs to make you stand out. It's important to be different. And as Mehdi and I are doing business together, LinkedIn is a very powerful resource. I think Bo Yi just gave me the best advertisement ever. Thank you, Bo Yi, for that. You said 30
You're
leads in a
welcome.
week. All right. You're welcome.
Yeah,
There you
only
go.
1 week.
We need
Only
to
one
put,
week.
Mehdi, we need to put the price up. Then I'll be expecting a good recommendation and testimonial from you, Bo Yi.
Sure, of
All
course.
right, good, fantastic. And from you too, Judge. All right. But
I will be very glad to. Very
thank you
glad
very
to.
much. Thank you. I appreciate that. So AI helped me, not AI, so LinkedIn helped me grow my business. I started on LinkedIn around about 2010. At the time, I didn't really like the platform. I thought it was disorganized and messy. And I set up my profile. I started to understand it. To this day, I still find half the resources and tools on LinkedIn almost unusable unless you have a degree in engineering and astrophysics. But they give you these resources and they make it so complicated to use and they restrict it. And even, for example, boosting a post on LinkedIn is $1,200. Like you can do the same thing on Instagram for $20. $1,200 to boost a post is, I think, very, very, very expensive and very risky. But LinkedIn is a powerful resource. And we launched recently, and I took this over from a very good friend of mine, Bob Friedenthal, and they kind of stole the heady, but with Bob's consent. We launched Business Concierge. Business Concierge is designed to make people stand out. If anyone has noticed me on LinkedIn, it wasn't by accident. It was by marketing, creativity, cheating the system a little bit. I like to post pictures of myself and my hot wife, all right? But interestingly enough, it makes a difference. Like when I post a picture with my wife, the last post we shared got more than 20,000 views. The one before that, 40,000 views. When I post on my own, I get 5 to 10,000 views. So using LinkedIn the right way can be very, very, very powerful. The messaging component of LinkedIn can really help people grow their business. The newsletters, the reels that Jeff mentioned a few moments ago. It makes you stand out from the crowd. So many people on LinkedIn are just posting boring things about their business. All right, people know they exist, but if I walk into a room full of 5,000 people, everybody will know me, and they will come up and say, "Adam, I recognize you from LinkedIn. I've had it so many times." Getting in an elevator, getting out of an elevator, walking into Starbucks, going to a trade show. I'm on the escalator and 20 people saying hello to me. And it's not because I know these people. It's because they see me on LinkedIn every day. All right. They start to identify with me. They follow me when I stop posting. They're writing to me and saying, "Where did you go?" People are loving the content that we're putting out, and we would love to do this for you guys. We would love to build your brand. And I'm not talking about when you go on Instagram and they say, "Hey, for $200, I will post this and this and this," and it's really just photoshopping your face onto something else or copying the same thing they did for 1,000 other people. Right? We are building a very personalized branding service, and it's based on my 35 years of marketing where I started my first business. And when I started my first business in 1990, there was no internet. There was only paper advertising, word of mouth. I had trucks driving in big cities with massive pictures of our service. We got people's attention in the old days when there was like the grassroots, boots on the ground. And over the years, the internet has basically taken over for everyone. But we have learned through my own experience how to continuously be successful and stand out on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. And we would love to help you with that and grow your brand. Branding is the most important thing. Jeff confirmed it. I think everyone here will agree with it. Branding is the most important thing for your business. People need to see you, recognize you, stand out from the crowd. They need to, when they think of being an architect, when they think of a lawyer, when they think of, when they think of HR, when they think of construction loans, they want to think of, you want them thinking of you. You want them saying to myself, I want to call Adam. I want to call Judge Lewis. I want to call Jeff. You want to be the go-to person that people think of. And what accomplishes that is branding, messaging, articles, videos. So, Business Concierge by Adam Cohen today is our new product, and it's done by me with Mehedi based on my many years of marketing and building brands and putting myself out there. And I think I've done it successfully because it doesn't matter where I go professionally, everybody knows who I am. So I'm selling something that I've built and created and done for myself. I'm not the guy with 100 connections saying, let me build your brand, I can bring you clients. Because when I see that, I see it every day, I kind of laugh like, how is someone who's never done it for themselves going to do it for me? But when you go to my LinkedIn page with my 35,000 followers, and when you see the stuff that we're putting on LinkedIn and the interaction and the engagement and the feedback, and as Bo Yi said, 30 leads in a week, I know a thing or two about marketing. And if you've got guys in-house, we will do a better job. So, and I'm looking at Anderson Kill as a potential client for Judge Lewis. We're going to show him what we can do, and then we're going to make redundant his guys in the office there, and we're going to replace them. And Jeff, we want to do this for you and also for Will. So, Business Concierge is a great product, and the reason why I launched it is because it's something I am very passionate about. I have exceeded everyone in my field in advertising and marketing to the point where they say to me, Adam, all the time, how did you get so busy? How did you get so many leads? Why are you so good at bringing in clients? The reason why is I understand marketing from 35 years ago through the present day, and I would love to build your businesses for you. All right. If anyone has any questions about that, you can call me anytime. You guys know how to reach me on LinkedIn, outside of LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to help you guys grow your business, and for you who are here today and for anybody watching. We're going to wrap this session up. I want to thank everybody for joining. I really enjoyed today's conversation. We'll be back next week, every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I look forward to having my current guests come visit us again. Everyone is welcome, and future people that want to join us. Thank you for watching.